Live Kabbalah is a non-profit organization founded for the distribution of the wisdom of Kabbalah and its values. Learning the original principles of this wisdom can reconnect us with the true values of our society, including the belief in the dignity and freedom of man, democracy, and the freedom of speech.
Hello everyone, today we're in Parashat VaYeshev. And Parashat VaYeshev, if you just remember Parashat Vayishlach, which is last week's parasha, we said that last week's parasha was not an easy parasha because the last week's parasha was a nightmare of every parent. It's the story of Yaakov with his family. They're moving, a nightmare in the first place. They're moving from where they lived for 22 years back home to Eretz Israel, to the promised land. And as they're moving, they get to meet Esau, who was Jacob's brother, and he comes with 400 people to kill them. So the crisis of the meeting, fighting with the angel, then later on, they come and settle in Shechem. It looks like everything is okay, and then Dinah, the daughter of Jacob, is being raped. Okay, as a vengeance, the brothers Shimon and Levi killed the whole city of Shechem, and they have to go on the run because you don't do things like this, and they run away from the vengeance, and on the way Rachel gives birth. She passes on while giving birth, and so Jacob, the story ends that he goes to Hebron to be with his father. It's not an easy parasha. This parasha is not easy either. Full of family crisis, but heavy duty ones. Which means again, it looks like we are now in the month of Kislev. Kislev is the month of Keshet, Sagittarius. And Sagittarius, it's all about dealing with challenges. Because Sagittarius, there are signs that you just give them challenges and they'll face it and they'll conquer them and they'll jump and go high and achieve and so on and so forth. And it looks like all of us need to gain that consciousness during this month, especially Chanukah. What is Chanukah? Very shortly we're going to celebrate Chanukah. It's again, you are being challenged, but heavily challenged. All what's there for you is being taken away, and now what do? Are you sitting and crying in mourning, or are you going to recreate yourself and do something else with yourself and ask yourself, okay, if this is happening to me, why is this happening to me, and what should I do with that? Okay, so let's go back to our parasha. Now parasha is saying, it's starting with the word VaYeshev Yaakov be'eretz megurei aviv. And Jacob sits, dwells in the land of his father, in Canaan. That's how it starts. Now Rashi, the great commentator from the 11th century in France, he's saying something that is famous, which is he's quoting a midrash, and he's saying VaYeshev bikesh Yaakov leshev b'shalva. What does everybody want? To sit and in peace with his family and enjoy, right? What's wrong with that? Bikesh Yaakov leshev b'shalva. All what Jacob wanted after so many years of hard work and hardships and confusion and confrontations, he wanted to sit in peace, finally. Okay? To sit in peace. Kasat elav rugzo shel Yosef. The anger of Joseph jumped on him, on top of him. Like what happened? The story is like this. If we read, we see this like a real soap opera with all the rules. We see, and Joseph is settling in the land of his father. Ele toldot Yaakov, Yosef. These are the generations of the offsprings of Jacob. Joseph. He had 12 sons. Why Joseph? 17 years old. And he was a shepherd with his brothers. And he also with the other. And he had a problem. First of all, he tells us that he had a problem with the daughters of the concubines. Jacob had 4 wives. 2 were Rachel and Leah, and 2 concubines, they were half-sisters of Leah and Rachel, from the same father, but from his concubines. Okay, so they were Zilpah and Bilhah. So he was going around with the sons of Zilpah and Bilhah. VaYaveh Yosef dibatam ra el aviem. And he was speaking bad to the father about his brothers. VeYisrael ahav et Yosef mikol banav. And as we said before, Ele toldot Yaakov Yosef. These are the offsprings of Jacob. Yosef. Then he's 17 years old. From the sentence you already see that Jacob prefers Joseph over the other brothers. Okay? We already know we are not for trouble. Big trouble. Like 12 sons, it's like there's only one, and Jacob behaves like there's only one. We know there's going to be a big trouble. Why? Human beings. Human beings, it's like in the moment if you're a parent and you show everyone that you like one child more than the others, there's going to be a trouble. Right? Everybody knows that. So if you're really wise, even if you like one child more than others, you don't show it. You don't show it in the open. Don't make it too blatant, right? And if we do not understand that from the previous verses, the Torah makes sure that we understand. And the brothers saw that the father loved Joseph more than all the other brothers. They hated him. They couldn't even say hello. Couldn't even say shalom. You meet 2 people see each other. What do they say to each other? Shalom. Right? They couldn't even say shalom. You know? When you can't say shalom, it's like it's beyond just an emotion. It's an overwhelming emotion. Because shalom, when you meet 2 people meet and they say shalom to each other, it's like, it's automatically, it's robotically. You don't have to even think about it. But when you can't say shalom, it's already a disease. Okay? Vayachalom Yosef chalom. And Joseph had a dream. Everybody, they made a whole musical out of it. He had a dream. And he told his brothers, Vayosifu od snoto, and that even added to their hatred toward him. Vayomer alehem shim'una chalom hazeh shechalamti. And he says to them, listen to this dream that I had. V'hine anachnu me'almin alumim betoch hasadeh. All of us, we're in the field, harvest, and each one of us is making a big sheaf of wheat from the harvest. V'hine kamalumati, and my sheaf is standing, and v'hine tesudena, the sheaf, how do you call it? The whole bunch of wheat that when you do the harvest, and you have this, you make a big bunch of them, right? So my aluma, my sheaf, stood up, and all your sheaves also stood up, and all of them bowed down to mine. Vayamru lo echav. So his brothers are saying, Hamaloch timloch aleinu, imashol timshol banu. Do you think you're going to be our king? Do you think you're going to be our ruler? Vayosifu otznoto. So again, it's the 3rd time in a few verses, and they hated him even more. Al chalomotav, v'al for his dreams and his words. From this, the Zohar says, we learn that Joseph was not that smart. Okay? Why can't you see they hate you? Can't you see they hate you? And if they hate you, there are certain things you don't tell people that hate you. And the Zohar says, even more than that, you never tell your dreams to people who hate you. Why? Because we learn from this story that dreams, we have 2 kinds of dreams. And we're talking about both of them. There's daydreaming, and there's also dreaming by sleep. You don't tell your dreams to anyone. Unless, the Zohar says, the person, if we're talking about night dreaming, the person that you tell the dream to needs to have a few conditions. First condition, the person loves you. You're not sure they love you, don't tell your dreams. Okay? The second, let's say even they love you, they have to know how to interpret dreams because it's an art. They don't know, they can create so much havoc, so much damage. Don't tell your dreams to anyone. Unless, A, they love you, B, they know how to interpret dreams. Why? The Zohar says, from this story you learn, because we have so many dreams during the story. First of all, you have the dreams of Joseph, right? And the way the brothers interpret, he tells that to his brothers. Now, how do we finish the story? That he's in jail, right? Not so nice. There's a dream, he's a slave in jail. You know, what can be worse than that? Oh, he could be dead, right? But at that time, being a slave in jail, it's like almost, it's better to be dead. The misery, the suffering, So, why does the Torah brings us this story? The Torah is bringing the story from a point of view that there is a big message. And it starts with VaYeshev Yaakov be'eretz megurei aviv. What's wrong with a person that wants to sit quietly, peacefully with his family? Just like this. What's the end of the story? His favorite son, that all his life he was dreaming about having this kind of a son. Because if we understand, there's a lineage, right? Abraham, Isaac, Jacob. Each one of them was brought to the world for a purpose, not just to have a child. Most people, they bring children to the world. Why? Because, it's nice. Abraham had a vision. He wanted to change the world. In order to change the world, he had to bring to the world a consciousness. And that consciousness was the consciousness that Zohar explained in previous Parashat. It's the consciousness of Chesed. And Chesed means loving kindness. To inject that idea into people's personality, state of mind, education, wherever, way of governing, that Chesed, sharing, caring and loving is what the world is standing on. Okay? But then he learns that that's not enough. You need also to have the consciousness of Gvura, which is judgment. Judgment means you have to say no. If you love your child and you say always yes to everything they ask, that's the worst cruelty you can have towards your child. You have to set boundaries for people that you love, that you're responsible for. Otherwise, they think that the world is just chesed and they're not ready that in this world everybody wants something, and if you don't know how to say enough, if you don't know how to focus your desires, that's also Gvura, judgment, you're going to get lost. Okay? So therefore he had to bring Isaac to the world as a connection, what the Kabbalists call it, a Merkava. What is Merkava? Merkava, the word Merkava in English is chariot, which is like very dull translation. Merkava comes from the word to leharkiv, to put together. Which means, how do you put together a life of a human being and a cosmic consciousness? The patriarchs were Merkavot. Each one of them was a living human being with a private personal life that we're not interested in. But he was also a manifestation of a state of mind that's what we care for. That we are supposed to use that state of mind in order to achieve what we call success and fulfillment. Okay? Were they perfect? No, they were not, because humans cannot be perfect. Okay? Our job is not to judge them, because that's not our job. It's like, I'm not going to use a certain device because I don't like the political views of the person who invented the device. Right? How does that sound like? When you use any kind of a cell phone or a TV, you don't ask what were the political views of the person who invented it, right? Abraham invented a device, it's called Chesed. Okay? He had other stuff to do. We can agree, we don't agree. That's not our business right now. Our business is he left behind him a device, and we're using this device. And this device is the ability of a human being to connect to that cosmic consciousness, which is called Chesed, which is loving and kindness. You want to have success in your life, you have to know how to use that. Isaac brought to the world the consciousness of judgment. You have to say no. Sometimes, and you have to say I need and I want. Sometimes. It's not always that you have to give and share and forget about yourself. You need to, and how to balance between the two? How to balance between all of this? Everybody has the I want and I share, and there's a whole chaos around. How do you balance all of these needs and wants around you, not just inside you? Jacob. That's the consciousness of central column, Tiferet. So we have Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Now, how do you manifest it in the physical world? A dream of all three. All his life, Jacob was dreaming to bring a child to the world that he will carry that mission. And that was Joseph. And when it says, Ele toldot Yaakov Yosef, these are the offspring or generations or the outcomes, that's the word meaning, the word toldot, of Yaakov. And then it says, Yosef ben 17 shana. Joseph was 17 years old. It's like, oh, Ele toldot Yaakov. Whoa. But it's one breath, Yaakov Yosef, which means the one who continues Jacob is, first of all, Joseph. Now, was he worthy of it? At this stage, when he's 17, we read the story, not at all. He has no idea how to settle the conflicts around him. Not just this, he just knows only how, with his arrogance, with he's using his qualities against himself, against his own interests. Don't we find people doing that? Too much. He was very young, yes, but he grew up with Jacob. He had somebody, Jacob educated him. Jacob was not just an educator, he was one of the most experienced, well-learned, whatever people in the world of that time. Correct? No. The point is like this. You can, something that I quote a lot, some Kabbalists that say, you can sit and learn and sit and learn, but there's also the time to experience. Till you experience, the expression is a donkey carrying books. Does that make the donkey smarter? No. So a lot of people, they know a lot of stuff. They read a lot of books. They went to a lot of classes. They got a lot of degrees. But they're in the place of donkey carrying books. They carry it. There's no interaction between the information they carry and their lifestyle and the way they behave. Okay? Now we learn over here that it's Joseph's turn to learn how to apply. You've studied. It looks like he's 17 years old and he's already being sold as a slave. Okay? Which means it's like the universe is saying to Joseph, you've learned enough. Now move on. So he's young, 17 years old, but probably today we can call him a gifted child. Right? He had the highest marks in class. He was teacher's best. However, he was arrogant, he was aloof, he did not see what's going around him, and he was totally disconnected from reality. Okay? And he thought it's okay. Which means whatever his father was teaching him about his life experience, he did not get it. So now, it's like the time is to move on. And to move on, you know what? You had enough with your father, you know enough. Now, let us see you experiencing it, and you have to do it yourself without anyone. But there's no doubt Joseph succeeded. Right? There's no doubt. Which means his father did a great job. But there's a difference between teaching someone and forcing them to get it. Is that clear? You can't force somebody to get it unless you put them in situations in which they have to do it on their own. You can sit and teach and teach and teach and tell and tell and tell stories and stories and stories. Now what does it mean? So why do we have this story? Why does Rashi have to say, I quote the Midrash, Jacob wanted to sit in peace and quiet, and then Joseph's story jumps over him. And it's a big thing that we have to understand. Many people think that to sit quietly and enjoy life is the purpose of life. And it's not. It is not the purpose of life.
Sorry to interrupt you. What about the boys in the yeshivot?
Let's first of all learn the concept, and then we can apply it to every aspect of life. The purpose of life is not to sit quietly and enjoy life. This is not the purpose. How come? The purpose. When we learn Kabbalah, we learn that the universe has been created by the Creator with endless bliss, and He created us for the purpose of us enjoying that bliss. One little problem messed up the plan. The moment the Creator gave us endlessly, we wanted also to be givers and we wanted also to be creators. This is something nobody can give you. This is something that you have to achieve by yourself. Therefore, we created what is called a tzimtzum. We shut down the light of the Creator away from our lives, and we created a whole series of shutdowns, of tzimtzumim, curtains, till finally we find ourselves in this world that is full of darkness, chaos, and paradoxes. Okay? That's this world. Why? Here we can create, here we can overcome, here we can be a creators on our own, which means far, far, far away from that warm, cuddling place of heaven. Who wanted this place? We did. That's what the company say. Now, which means, what are we here for? To settle in quite nicely and quietly, whatever we had it already. We had it and we're fed up. What can we do? We're fed up. So we wanted to be creators. We wanted to create. Which means, a real life for a human being is when a person is creating something out of nothing. Something out of nothing is like when we build a new country out of the desert or swamps. Or let's say you have terrible relationships and you create amazing relationships out of these terrible relationships. A person gets sick, he fights, he learns, he deals with it, and he turns it into a kind of a victory. All of these events leave us fulfilled in a way that's settling quietly, nice and easy, and will never give us. Even there is a kind of expression that is, when you talk about people that create a business, create a life, create a family life, and so on, and when everything comes in nice and quietly, subconsciously, people have this tendency to sabotage. You heard the word sabotage. That people sabotage their relationships, their business. Why? It's like, this is not enough. Something is missing. What's missing? You have everything. Why do you have to mess it up? Sabotage. That's the word that experts are using. Why this person had everything. Nice kids, family, job, whatever, and suddenly they had to mess it up. Looking for trouble. Have you heard about that? Too much. Too much. Why? There is something about achieving the impossible, the illogical, the unacceptable, all of this of the above, that gives us the thrill that being sitting nice and easy doesn't give us. Doesn't give us. Okay? And when you study about people, you study, for instance, there's a study from the previous decades saying that people who had nice and easy life, in nice and easy jobs, live less than people who had very challenging jobs with hardships. A research. People in jobs that are nice, 9 to 5 kind of a job, in a government office, whatever, you just have to fill up the form the whole. I found out that a lot of these people, very high percentage. I heard from one of the head of the unions of a big family, a big government office, said the highest rate of depression is among these people. Working in a government office, they have steady job with steady pension, with everything. Everything is guaranteed till the pension. Everything, they just have to fill up the forms. Everything is quiet. They have their tea breaks. They have this family. They have this union events and union trips once in a while. It's like everything is stable. Okay? Highest rate of depression. Why? People, and that's the word, when a person tries to settle and sit quietly, something within our nature will rebel. That's what's called VaYeshev Yaakov be'eretz megorei aviv. And now what does it mean? The Kabbalists give it even a more technical explanation. Every person has two kinds of lights. One is called or pnimi, internal light. Internal light means it's the light that you will have because you earn it along your past lives and this life. And there is surrounding light, or mekif. Or mekif, surrounding light, is a different story. Or mekif is the light that you intended to achieve in your life, but did not achieve yet. Surrounding light is like this kind of devilish energy that surrounds you and says, is this enough? Is this enough? Well, this is all? You don't want anything else? Is this enough? Till it drives you crazy, and makes you say I can't sit like this. I have to do something else. But what's wrong? Keep it this way. No, I can't. And I'm going crazy. I can't. Have you ever met people like this? Every human being, healthy enough, settling and coming to steady kind of life, will start to have this nudge, surrounding light saying, is this enough? That's all what you want? So, Rabbi Ashlag says, the founder of modern Kabbalah movement, he's saying a human being moves forward in two conditions. There are two ways. One, he said it this is an article from the late 20s, early 30s of the 20th century. So we're talking about beginning of the 20th century. And he said, today it's the same words using from the world of cars. You see there are cars that have the engine is in the front. How do you call it? Front drive? Front wheel drive. And there's back wheel drive. Okay? So Rabbi Ashlag, he says people move forward either by front wheel drive or back wheel drive. What's the difference? Front wheel drive is when a person has a dream, he sees the dream, he visualizes the dream, and he's doing everything he can to get and to achieve that dream. Okay? These people move fast forward because they never sit and rest. They're always moving forward, and they're achievers and doers and goers, and they have the most fulfilling kind of life. The rest of humanity, they have back wheel drive. What does it mean, back wheel drive? They have a dream, it's their surrounding light, but they're kind of trying to shut it down, to ignore it. So it comes from the back wheel drive. What does it mean? They get pushed from behind. What do I mean getting pushed from behind? All kinds of things happen in their lives that push them and push them and push them till till reality forces the person out of his comfort zone and out in the wilderness. And now, you're out, go and do it. So you see, so just a second. So we have those people. When they're being pushed out, what do? They try to go back to where they've been. Oh, it was so good. oh, the good old days and so on and so forth, Rabbi Ashlag is saying this is klipa. Klipa means a shell. What does it mean? It's negative energy. Nostalgia is negative energy. In the way of, oh, the good old days, it will never be the same. Why are you saying that? Why are you saying that? So what is left if you say that judgment about yourself? It will never be the same. It can be only worse from now on. Right? This is terrible. And we learn something that we learned in previous Parashat. The sharing and the giving, and it's every person has to remember that from the moment he wakes up in the morning till the moment he wakes up in the morning. Which means you have to remember it even in dream state. It's like 24/7. If you don't remember that, you're up to back wheel drive. Which means you're going to find yourself being pushed. And pushed by people, pushed by events, pushed and pushed and pushed and pushed. And it's like, leave me alone. Why are you pushing? You have to move forward. Hello? You were born to be a creator. You have your birthright, which is to be a creator and to achieve and manifest the purpose that you came to this world for, which is not to have a job 9 to 5 and to eat like 3 steady meals and so on and so forth, and to take your vitamins and to be a nice citizen, and your soul will ask you, your surrounding life is going to ask you, that's it? That's all what you're here for? Did you make a difference? Did you make a difference? To anyone? To yourself? Did you overcome a challenge? Did you create a miracle? Did you bring the light to a place of darkness? Especially to your heart? Do you ever do something like this? Do you know that you can do this every day, every minute? Do you really believe in that? Are you a miracle maker? What's the difference between a human being and an animal? An animal, a beast, is a robot. It's a robot of the Creator. You leave beasts alone, they will live a perfect kind of life. They'll eat each other, whatever, but the bottom line will be that everybody gains. Just in every ecosystem. Human beings, they have to learn to be more than that. Because if you're not going up the mountain, if you don't climb up the ladder, you fall behind. And then the sages said that even a mosquito is better than you are. Because a mosquito will never do something vicious. Will never go into a klipa. A mosquito will never do all the good old days. I don't feel like waking up this morning. The mosquito will do what they have to do. And even if a mosquito bites you, there is a reason for that, and there is a job for that. And the Zohar says, even the most disgusting creatures on earth, they are part of the whole, and you take them out, the whole will collapse. Everything has a job in this world, and you cannot ever abuse any part of creation. Okay? Because every creature has a job, has a function, and you learn today in ecology, but that's the way it is. You take one link out, the whole thing. You have to respect what's around you, but you have to respect what's inside you also. You're not a mosquito. You're not a lion, and you're not a giraffe. You're a human being. And human beings, what they do is they have to move forward and climb up the ladder. And to climb up the ladder, you have to do it. You want to or you don't, you have to do it. Now you have to choose front wheel drive, back wheel drive. That's a choice. But you have to move forward. And history is moving forward. People saying, it has never been that worse as it is today. I disagree. With all the disasters around us, life is much better today than it used to be 50 years ago, 100 years ago, 1,000 years ago. Life is much, 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 much better. Why? We've been pushed. We suffered a lot. We suffered even more than that. There were so many atrocities. Humanity created systems that did not exist in the past. Did we finish? No. Why we're so upset reading newspapers? Because our surrounding light is saying, it's not over yet. You have to get up and push. There's still atrocities, still abusive behavior here and there. people, regimes, governments, even modern and enlightened ones, the game is not over. And you can't just lie and sit or rest on your laurels, because look at what you've done. After so many thousands of years, humanity is much better than it used to be. It's still not over, and there's a lot of things to do. And the surrounding light is pushing and pushing and pushing. Whoever is trying to say, oh, it's not my job. My job is just to get up in the morning, to do nice things with nice people and enjoy and enjoy and enjoy. And once in a while to do some charity work and this and this and this. What can we do? We were not created for that. We were not. Why? We will not be happy. The highest rate of suicide in the world is where? In those countries, everything is nice. There's nothing to complain about. So where can I make a difference? A human being gets up in the morning, it's like, everything is settled already. Where can I make a difference? I can't. Okay, so what am I here for? So if you don't ask that question consciously, you ask this question subconsciously. Your soul is asking you. So, let's go back. And that's why the Zohar starts, VaYeshev Yaakov be'eretz megurei aviv. As we said, then Jacob settled in the place of his father's land. Rabbi Chia patach v'amar, Rabbi Chia opened and said, Rabot ra'ot tzadik, u'mikulam yatzilenu Hashem. Many troubles, evil, bad stuff happen to the tzaddik. God will save him from all of them. If God is so good, why do you allow God to the tzaddik, the righteous person, to have so many troubles? How would he become a tzaddik if he doesn't have to go through troubles? Just you think that there's a instant tzaddik powder. You put in one cup two spoons of tzaddik powder. You let it ferment for a while and get a tzaddik, right? And ready-made tzaddik. No, it doesn't work this way. It doesn't work this way. Joseph, from all the sages, especially biblical sages, who is the one who is known as a tzaddik? Joseph. Yosef a tzaddik. No one, not David a tzaddik, Avraham a tzaddik, Yaakov. We never say that. Only Yosef a tzaddik. What made him a tzaddik? Not what he did till now, right? His relationship with his brothers doesn't give him the title tzaddik. So, but every human being is a tzaddik in potential. He's a tzaddik in potential. And the Zohar says you become tzaddik only after, as we say, it says in the Proverbs, Sheva panim yipol tzaddik v'kam. Okay? 7 times the tzaddik will fall, gets up. And we said many times, what makes the difference between a tzaddik and an evil person, that the tzaddik will get up. The evil person will stay lying down, cry for his misfortune, and will make everybody around him also miserable. Because, misery likes company. Correct? That's what makes him evil. Why? He never tried to get up. So now you're lying down and being miserable. What are you going to do? You have to share it with someone. It's fun to share your misery with others. Tell them stories, hurt them, spoil rain on their parade, spoil their parties. That's what people do. When do they do it? When they are themselves, when they're miserable. Okay? So the Zohar repeats what we learned in the last few weeks. The moment the person gets his soul, he gets also the evil inclination. Jacob and Esau story. Okay? And the moment he gets this evil inclination, the fight starts within. Right? ובורא שכנו, הבהמות מיום שנולדו כולן שומעות את עצמן ובורחות מאשת. We said beasts, animals, from the moment they're born, they run away from fire. They run away from danger. They know exactly where to go, where not to go. They know which herbs to eat and which not. They know when they have a stomachache, which herbs to eat and which not. Have you seen your cat going out and after eating something and starting to munch on some vegetables outside in the garden? They do that. They know exactly what's working, what's not working. They're never going to hurt themselves. This is about beasts. From the moment they're born, they will know how to keep away from trouble. Adam כשנולד, human being, the moment they're born, מיד בא להשליך את עצמו לאש. Immediately wants to throw himself into the fire. We know every baby, it's a bundle of troubles, right? You just leave them alone, and if a mother walking in the kitchen, let's say, or somewhere in the office, and it's quiet in the kids' room for more than a few seconds, her adrenaline jumps high to the ceiling, and she already has like horrible visions of what this kid is capable of doing to himself and to his environment, right? And it doesn't change when they grow up. As we said, this is the evil inclination. That not just that we don't stay out of trouble, we are very good in creating them. We're so genius in creating them. Now we have this like creativity in inventing unheard of troubles that nobody heard before. That's what humans do. משום שהיצר הרע שורה בתוכו, because the evil inclination is inside the person, ומיד מסיתו לדרך הרע, and immediately pushes him to the evil way. And that's why I say that we have this fight that from past week, Jacob and Esau, between the two sides of our personality all the time. This is the first arena in which we have to win. So I don't have to build a new country. I don't have to invent a medicine, a cure to certain kind of a disease nobody knows how to cure in order to feel a creator. I can simply overcome my desire to destroy myself and the world around me. That's the first way to become creative. So simple. How? When I'm being pushed and shoved and stepped on and whatever, or just I imagine that that's what happened to me, I can lie down and cry miserably, or I can have a vision and move forward saying like, this is what I want and that's what I'm going to move on for. That's my front wheel drive. Now when a person is focusing what they want, they stop focus on what they don't want, right? So if I get up in the morning and ask myself, what is that you want today? And my story is, I want to be a light. I want to be a lighthouse to everyone, to myself. I want to be creative. I want to think positive. I want to have only love, happiness, excitement, and good emotions in my heart. Okay? Everybody should do that when they wake up in the morning. Why? You have to tune up before you go out to, If you didn't tune up the engine, so take a moment, make a prayer, meditation, visualize the way you want your day. You have to start the day, because when you're out on the run already, sometimes it's too late, and before you know it, you look backwards and say, what have I done? What have I done? What did I allow others to do to me? Because remember, it's always my free choice. When somebody comes to me and says all kinds of terrible things about me, I can get really upset, and I can choose looking at that person and say, I understand what you're saying, but I feel great about myself and about what I'm doing. And I see that you're in hell, and I decided today I'm going to stay in heaven. My choice. Can we do that? Can we do that? Why is it that when we see, let's say, can you just imagine that? You get up in the morning and you make a decision that you're going from A, your bed, you got up in the morning, till B, your bed when you go to sleep, and you visualize that when you go to sleep, you're going to look backwards at your day and to say, what an amazing day. It was such a nice, good, creative, productive day. Okay? Now what most people do, they start on the road, and then on the first impact they have with somebody else, then it looks like they forgot what they want. And they come to you with their cesspool, garbage pile, or whatever. Okay? And you know, misery likes company. You know what I'm saying? So, and as they come, they try to share it with you. Most people, what they do, they leave their heavenly road and they jump into that person's cesspool voluntarily. And sometimes they have a mud fight. Right? You saw these mud fights. Why do I have to voluntarily jump into somebody else's hell? So they said, so what? So they think so about you. So what? So they want you to suffer. So what? I'm sorry, but you tell me something and you want me to go somewhere that it was not on my checklist for today. Okay? So please maybe please make an application. And tonight when I'm planning my tomorrow, okay, I see if it fits my busy schedule. Can we say that?
No.
Yes, we can. Yes, we can. First of all, we have to acknowledge that it's not part of our job to jump into somebody else's cesspool. It's not our job.
But if you want to give consolation,
If I want to give consolation, jumping into their cesspool, we're both going to drown. Okay? Okay? It sounds like, you know, they suffer so much, I have to suffer a little bit like them. Right? I have to be miserable like them because it's not polite. You know, somebody's suffering so much, you can't smile to them with love and say, you know, you don't have to be where you are. Your life can be so much better. But the person, you want to tell me that, you know, there's no justification for my suffering and misery right now? I think you can do better. It's not polite in our society, right? It's even kind of rude. It's even rude. You know what? You want to live long? You want to live happy life, quality life? You have to start doing it. That's called judgment. You have to make judgment. And what making judgment means? It makes like, I see your hell and I decide not to go there. Okay? So with love, empathy and compassion, to tell the person, you know, I understand your pain. However, you have to remember that you can choose differently. Now what do we learn from here? Let's go. We see over here in this story that Joseph is in a bad shape. With all what he studied with his father, with all the education, the guy is misbehaving terribly. He's so stupid that it's aching. Right? It's so painful how stupid he is. And he's bringing it upon himself. And when he goes to visit his brothers in Dotan, and when they see him coming and approaching, and they say, oh, he comes, Baal HaChalamot hazeh. Here's the guy, the dream guy is coming. Let's see what happens with his dreams. And they're very, very upset. The commentators are asking, like, these guys were not just simple people. They were Joseph's sons. Each one of them became a chariot to one of the 12 tribes. Each one of them became like the tribe of Reuben, Shimon, Levi, Yehuda, Issachar. It's not anymore people. It's establishments. Those people thought like this. So, something we said a lot. People's logic is very limited. You can be the wisest person in the world about 2003 things, and the 2004th you can be so stupid the whole world is going to mock you for thousands of years later. Why? You're human. And humans don't see the whole picture, because that's what makes you a human. They made a mistake. They thought that Joseph is like Esau. You know, there was an Ishmael, there was an Esau, now there's a Joseph. There was one in every family. Let's get rid of him now before it becomes a big trouble. That's what they thought. Our father, Jacob, we don't know how to get Esau out of the way. We're still suffering till now. Right? Let's get this out of the way when he's still young. Then they were so convinced that that's what should be done. Okay? People have different ways to convince themselves they're right. Okay? So when you're very, 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 very convinced that you're right, and it's by all the books and the religion and God is behind you, never be so sure about it. And when a person is very sure about it, 100% sure about whatever they're very dangerous. These are the most dangerous people. The ones that we have to be afraid of more than anyone else. Why? Because if you're not aware that you're a human and you can make mistakes, oh my God. The world has suffered from these people and is still suffering from these kind of people. Be aware. Okay? A spiritual person is a person that knows I'm running with all my engines forward, and I'm willing to know, to understand that I'm making a mistake. Why? Because I'm human. They decided he is the next Esau. They want to kill him. Reuben had some doubts. He said, you know what, let's not kill him. Let's put him in the hole. And he says, Va'bo rek en bo mayim. The commentator is saying, the hole is empty, no water. So the commentator was asking, we said it's already empty, why do we have to say no water? It's like, not redundant, we already got it, okay? Why do you have to add, if it's empty, we know there's no water. Why do you have to say no? So they say, no water. Snakes and scorpions, yes, they are over there. It's not totally empty, it's empty for water only. So can we imagine Joseph is now in the pit. And you know, the next step of the story is they sell him as a slave. He's being sold to a convoy of Ishmaelites. And it says, and these Ishmaelites are carrying very precious perfumes. And the commentators are asking, why do we have to know these details? That they carried. Why do we care? It's like it's horrible enough. Can you imagine the brothers? Do you know how many dysfunctional families do you know that the brothers sell another brother as a slave? How many families like this do you know that they sell daughters as slaves? Personally. It's not very common in your society. Right? We're talking about, this is the Bible, right? This is the book we have to learn from. Now, these are the people we have to learn from. They sell the brother as a slave. The Torah says, if you sell someone as a slave, that's sentence. To take somebody and make a slave out of him, this is death sentence. That says in the Torah. Gonev ish u'mecharo mot yumat. In Parashat Mishpatim, in the book of Exodus. You steal a person and sell him, and that's why the sages say that these 10 brothers, there were 10. Benjamin was home, he was too small. So from the 12, Joseph was sold. How many were left? 10. There's a story some few thousand years later, 2,000 years later. There's a story about, it's called Asara U'Bia Malchut. There were 10 greatest sages and leaders of the Jewish nation, like Rabbi Akiva. They were caught by the Romans, tortured, and executed. Asara U'Bia Malchut. How could that happen? And the sages are saying they were reincarnation of the 10 brothers of Joseph. They had to pay for what they did. You cannot steal a person, sell him as a slave, and say, I'm sorry. You have to cleanse it. And they had to pay the price. they had to pay the price. Because it's a terrible thing to take somebody's freedom and to make him a slave. Terrible, terrible. The price is terrible.
Especially if it's your brother.
Especially if it's your brother. And that's why when we look at the still societies in our world, they do that. They sell their brothers, their daughters, as slaves. But look about the payment. The suffering and the misery of these societies. They enslave their wives. They enslave, and the misery is beyond imagination. The misery of the whole society. Why? You cannot sell somebody's freedom and not get hurt immediately. Because its cause and effect on the spiritual level is on the spot. Oh, sometimes you have to see the result 1,000 years later. Physically, in the physical world, but in the spiritual world, the soul is getting hurt and damaged for a person who does it. For who knows how long till you cleanse it from your soul. So can you imagine a society that it legitimizes child labor, enslaving women, enslaving anyone, because they are a lower caste, because the payment is immediate to the soul. And when the soul is fractured because of the pain that you inflict on other people, when you compromise their freedom, that every human being was created in the image of God. So you cannot compromise that. When you do that, you destroy the image of God within yourself. High payment. But again, Rashi is asking, why is it important to know that Joseph was bought by a convoy of Ishmaelites carrying perfumes? And Rashi says weird stuff. Rashi lived in the 11th century in France. And he says we all know that Ishmaelites trade crude oil. And that stinks. 11th century. It says neft. You know what's neft? Crude oil. And zephet, which is the heavy derivatives of crude oil. It stinks. However, Joseph had mercy from above, and he got a convoy of Ishmaelites carrying, unusually, perfumes. How come? We learn that the moment, and we have two hints for that. He came out of the pit alive. Right? He comes out alive. Which means the moment he was thrown into the pit, and it says, let's continue and read the story. And he had the dreams, and he tells the dreams, and then he goes to look for his brothers. His father is sending him to see how they are doing. Terrible decision, right? You don't see that they hate your son so much. Now you send him to spy on them. It's even worse than that. He's sitting at home with his father, learning, and they're outside in the wilderness with a sheep, sleeping outside on the stones, on the ground, heat and cold, whatever. He's at home. This nice little boy. How come Jacob didn't see? He was blind, he didn't see. Why? Isaac was not blind to see what's going on with Esau and Jacob. Abraham was not blind to see what's going on between Hagar, Ishmael, and Yitzchak, and so on. To teach us. You can be a cherry, you can be the height. You're not supposed to see the whole picture. Why? When your children have to go through certain things, you won't be able to see and save them. And we as parents will do so much to have our children in cocoons, so they are not going to be exposed to pain and suffering. If Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob could not do that, who can be so smart to do that? But Jacob did one thing. He gave his son the education, because he knew the rules. He knew the rules. So how do we know it started to work? He says, on the way to Shem, "Vayimtzeu ish v'hineh to'eh basadeh," and a person found him Joseph, and he's lost. And some commentators saying, To'eba today is lost. He was lost. He had no idea about his father, his brothers, about what is spirituality. He didn't know anything about what he's supposed to be in his life. He knew he has to be a king. He was born for that. He has to rule. He was born for that. He was raised for that purpose. He didn't know how to do that. He thought grandeur comes easy. He was born for that. He thought he's going to tell his brothers how great he is. And they're going to bow down to him. He's going to share his amazing royal dreams, and they're going to bow down to him. He got exactly the opposite. No, we don't know. Once I told somebody a story about real wisdom. In the 13th century, 1215, in England, King John I had to give up his powers to the barons of England. He had to give them the Magna Carta. What was the Magna Carta? They're not subjects anymore, they're citizens. What does it mean? Citizens means they have rights, and the king cannot overrule their rights. Did he do it willingly? He was forced to. Few times later, when he could, he ignored the obligation. He was forced to accept it again. He was weak, thank God, and I'm sure that all the kings of England mocked him. All the kings of Europe mocked him for being weakling. Right? However, a few centuries later, there was a queen in Paris. She said, if they don't have bread, let them eat cakes. What happened later on? She lost her head. Her husband too. Into the basket. Right? Something very interesting. The descendants of King John I are still sitting on the throne in England. So, it was lucky that King John was weak enough to give up. Okay? Sometimes being smart is being open and sensitive in the way of being vulnerable, and not too strong, and not too smart. If he was smart enough, King John I, to outsmart them, and live and not signing the Magna Carta, he could be like the other kings in Europe. But his legacy is still there, and his offspring are still sitting on the throne in England. Okay? Although it's a joke, some people say it's a show. The fact is like they're still alive, they have their heads on their shoulders. While the kings, the amazing Merovingian kings of France, where are they? Their heads in the bucket. Right? They were so smart, disconnected. So, when Joseph was thrown into the pit, he immediately got that he did something wrong. The only way he could get what his father was teaching him was to send him into the pit. With the scorpions, with the snakes. How do we know that he already got the message? Because when he was sold, he was already sold to a convoy of perfumes. That's the result. What does it mean? If it's destined that you have to be sold as a slave, it's going to be perfumed with very precious perfumes. Why? Because you will be able to pave the road with petals of roses. So from the outside it's going to look terrible, but what is the outcome? Listen to the outcome. And he's being sold in Egypt. The sages are saying, like, when he was brought to Egypt, he was one of the seven most beautiful men ever walked on earth. Can you imagine where he was offered to be sold in Egypt? Joseph. first of all, in a place that very precious slaves are being sold, and also for certain purposes, right? That I'm not going to mention, but I leave it to your imagination. Okay? What happens later? He's being sold to Pharaoh's right hand, to Potiphar, to a minister, one of the most powerful people in Egypt. Okay? The story goes, and as it's being sold, like every good soap opera, we're moving to another picture. Judah, the son of Jacob. It says, "Vayered Yehuda malecha," and Judah went down from his brothers. Why? Who gave the idea to sell Joseph as a slave? Yehuda. He had to go down immediately. He also had to go down, and what was the story? The story, he married a woman. He had 3 sons. The first got married. He died because he's misbehaving. The second son had to marry the first, that was the custom, to marry the widow. He died also. The third son, Yehuda is afraid. He lost 2 sons already. He's afraid. He says to the widow, 2 times widow, "Sit at home with your father. He's too young. When he grows up, I'll call you." He doesn't call her. She knows she has a job to do. Remember how we finished with Joseph? She dresses up as a prostitute. They had the Canaanites, these temples of prostitution. And Yehuda goes into one of these, and they have relations. He doesn't know she is his daughter-in-law. She gets pregnant. When he hears that she is pregnant, he doesn't know that she comes. He has nothing to pay, by the way. So she takes his signet ring and disappears. When he hears Yehuda that she's pregnant, let's burn her. You're a disgrace for the family. This is the Middle East. Till today, even in Israel, every few weeks you hear about a woman being murdered in an Arab village because the suspicion that she was seeing other men, disgrace to the family, and a brother executed her. The whole Middle East is like this. Today, so we're talking about 4,000 years ago. Let's burn her up. She comes with a signet ring. She says, "This is the father." And he realizes that she's pregnant from him. She's more righteous than I am. Why is he saying so? She's still. What happened over here? You know who came out of this relation? Twins. Peretz and Zerach. From these 2 came out finally Boaz, who was one of the big judges of the tribe of Judah, and the family of Naomi, Ruth. Finally, what came out from these 2 is King David. And the throne came from this weird story. What's going on over here? It's all to show us the surrounding light is pushing, and if you're not willing to move on with your, what's the word? With your purpose? Karma. With your purpose. It's not just karma, with mission, yes. With your mission, you have to go through very weird directions to finally, it will be pushed, and finally, these souls have to come to the world. You didn't do it in the right way, you have to do it in the other way. Finally, history has to move on. And you have to cooperate. We come back to Joseph. Remember, we left him he just was sold. For what purpose? Okay, to Potiphar. What were Potiphar's and the sages are dealing with his sexual motives of Potiphar and preferences. Why did he buy such a beautiful man like Joseph? He probably paid a fortune for him. So can you imagine how Joseph comes into Potiphar's home as an object, as a slave? By the end of the book, he is already the head of his master's business. He's running. We're talking about Potiphar as one of the strongest people in Egypt. To run all the business matters of his master. He's a Hebrew. He's a slave. Unheard of. We know that Joseph did not sit and cry. We know that he started to apply what he studied. He knew that you fell, get up. No time to cry. No time to cry. What's your vision? What's your vision? Are you in the pit? I'm in the pit. They're going to kill me. What's your vision? You have a vision. You have a dream. Think about it. When you think about it, when you focus on it, you remember one thing. The universe has nothing else but the desire to give you your wishes, to make them come true. But you have to ask for it. What you think about, that's what you're getting. Don't ask for, be careful what you're asking for, you might get it. So, remember that your brain is the most powerful machine in the world, because the images you create in your brain, that's what becomes your life. So be careful what you allow, what kind of pictures you allow to come into your brain. If you can focus on these pictures, but I'm in the pit, I'm a slave. So, continue to focus on what you're going to be, what you want to be, what you're supposed to be. And you're going to be it. It's going to become you. How did he become what he became? We have no idea what he did, but he had to be so brilliant. But we know one thing. He had no time to mourn, to cry, to be miserable, and to make others miserable. He was focused 100% every second to get to the top. And he got there. In the end, it says, he was already on top of the world. If Potiphar was one of the strongest people in the world at that time, and he's running all his business, he had so much respect probably. So the commentators are saying, so he's already standing in front of the mirror, curling his hair, and saying, nice. Remember the surrounding light? Is that all what you want? Poof. His master's wife wants him. And he finds himself in another pit. Right? Did he learn? Yes. He was not sitting crying in the pit. He started to take over the pit. Finally, he gets to know and to serve the two celebrities, the wine steward and the baker of Pharaoh. And the story continues next week. Thank you so much.